Me and some pals were talking outside a show last week, remembering how insane it was in the 90s. And I guess I think it was mostly the late 90s, early 2000s, the Attitude Era in wrestling, how often they would bring out these two elderly women wrestlers, Mae Young and the Fabulous Moolah, I think it was. They would bring them out, and invariably they would get just destroyed. They would get thrown through a table or power bombed, launched off the entrance ramp. These women were getting destroyed every week, you know? And that's crazy. I guess that's why they call it the Attitude Era. That's what that meant. Also, they showed asses sometimes. I feel real lucky. I feel really lucky that I got to grow up during the Attitude Era because it was insane. It really was. Every time I remember some shit that happened in wrestling when I was a kid, I'm like, how do they get away with that? Like, they were always, like, in the Attitude Era, one big change I feel like is suddenly they were always trying to make us kids think that the wrestlers were dead. That was like a big part of it. They had Shawn Michaels collapse one time at the end of Monday Night Raw. He collapsed for no reason, and they're like, "Oh my God, this is serious. This isn't like part of the show." They said that, and then they cut off from Raw, and I was sure Shawn Michaels was dead. I've talked about this on stage before, but I went to my mom. I was like, "Oh my God, Shawn Michaels is dead." And I remember her being like, yeah, of course. Oh, that's crazy. That's too bad. Because she knew it was wrestling, you know? She figured it was a work. So she was like, "Oh, that's crazy." And I remember being like, "Am I missing something here? Why are you not as concerned as I am? I never knew you to be so cold." But yeah, crazy times. They were always doing that. They always wanted us kids fearing for our favorite wrestling superstars' lives. One time they had Stone Cold Steve Austin try to break into Brian Pillman's house. You remember that old bit? And of course there were cameras there for this attempted home invasion. One guy's head in a car door, I remember, and then I think he threw a guy in a kiddie pool, one of those plastic kiddie pools. But anyway, now he's at the door. He's breaking into flying Brian Pillman's family home while Brian Pillman holds a revolver like this. He's like, he has this crazy look in his eye. And then you're hearing Stone Cold Steve Austin about to break in. And then you see Pillman, I think he's like pointing the gun at the door, like shaking, like waiting for him, you know? And then they cut the feed. They were truly like, "Nope. Come back next week to find out if your favorite wrestler, Stone Cold Steve Austin, was killed in a stand your ground style incident." But he wasn't. He was okay. He was okay. He lived, and he went on to, of course, do such great things in and out of the ring. We love you, Stone Cold. We always will. People just knew how to put on a show back then. But anyway, boom, 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 how. Welcome to the Oddball History Podcast, episode 100. It is the great 100th episode Royal Mental Illness Roundup, presented by Crazy Steve's Fine Gowns and Sandwich Shop. Mention this ad for 15% off a classic Italian beef sandwich with the purchase of any quinceañera dress at regular menu price.
Got digging through the past, crazy tales, they uncover facts. History stranger than you think. They'll also talk about wieners in a blink. They'll talk about wieners in a blink. Oddball History.
We have an instant classic of an episode for you today. I guess I can't really say that. I can't be the one to say that. You know, I can't know that. I can't judge that. You know, eyeball can see anything but itself, right? But I'm confident it'll at least be pretty good. And that's the oddball guarantee. We guarantee it'll probably be at least pretty good. It's Crazy Kings. It's going to be a good time. I like how I backed away from my confidence immediately. I backtracked immediately. I was like, this is going to be a banger. And then I was like, I don't know. I would be a terrible, terrible boxing promoter. Be like, my man here is untouchable, all right? Nobody will ever. You know what? Actually, now that I think about it, I mean, that's kind of crazy to say. That's a little strong, you know? I mean, even Muhammad Ali eventually got beat. You know, Mike Tyson eventually was knocked out. And let me tell you something. This guy is no Mike Tyson or Muhammad Ali. I'll tell you that right now. But definitely still by the pay-per-view, though. Still by the pay-per-view, but his ass is not Mike Tyson. All about Mad Kings, though. It's a fun topic, and yet kind of a minefield to research. It's a real broad term to be like a king that's crazy. It can mean different things. I tried to limit myself to really crazy seeming royals who were crazy in entertaining ways. It can mean a lot of different things, like mad kings and queens, because you have some who are legitimately, it seems, insane. You have Tsar Peter III, who we'll get into. He had a court-martial for a rat and then hanged the rat after finding him guilty in the court-martial. I mean, that's crazy. But then you have other people like Joanna the Mad of Castile, Juana La Loca, they call her. She's on a lot of these lists. And in my limited reading, I did not add her to the episode because it seems like she was not mentally ill. It seemed like it was all an invention of her father and husband, Philip the Handsome, who stood to gain directly from her being labeled crazy. So people who met her were always like, that's so weird. She didn't seem like a crazy woman at all. People who knew her early in life attested to that. But she's, labeled mad and gets on all the crazy kings and queens lists. Also, people point out there were never any accusations of mental illness before she got married. It was only after she got married. So, but like a lot of them are that way, a lot of the mad kings and queens, you read about them and it's just kind of sad. You're like, this isn't a court-martial for a rat. I was looking for a court-martial for a rat sort of anecdote, and y'all are not delivering. I feel very sad now, having read this. A lot of so-called mad kings and queens, it seems, were just really had depression, and they just didn't know what to do with it. They were like, this guy was crazy. He had depression, and they killed his whole family too. But we don't know. He was crazy. He was so down in the dumps all the time. So a lot are just depressed. A lot aren't even depressed. They're just trying to mind their own business. But you can't mind your own business in a royal court. In any royal court, Ned Stark taught us that. He tried to mind his own business, and look where it got him. They chopped his head off, for those of you who haven't seen Game of Thrones. My point is, you have to be all up in other people's shit to survive. You need to cultivate a constant, tireless paranoia, but not too much paranoia at the same time, because then your courtiers, your powerful courtiers or eunuchs in one guy's case, they'll accuse you of being insane and lock you away. So making this episode, I tried to focus on the truly insane kings, the ones who were out there doing historically weird shit and making people nervous with their very presence. Shout out real quick to King Charles VI of France, by the way. We already covered him in episode 67. Me and Jimmy did. It was called Charles in Charge of France. Good episode. Classic oddball, if ever there was one. But he would definitely be on the list, Charles VI of France, if we had not already covered him. He once attacked his own knights, as you'll remember. Came to believe he was made of glass. Wore rods in his clothes so he wouldn't shatter, and once almost burned himself and many other members of the royal family to death while doing a funny dance number at a party, as you'll remember, the Bal des Ardents. or Ball of the Burning Man. He was a real lunatic, Charles VI, and frankly, he'd be at the top of this list if we hadn't already got to him. But coming up, we got Tsar Peter III, we got Caligula, we got the Zhengde Emperor of China. It's going to be a good time. No top comments this week. I was thinking about making up some kind of excuse as to why, we got too much packed in to this week's episode for a top cut, but in truth, I just forgot. I just straight up spaced on it. Sorry, y'all, but hey, still appreciate those comments. Fucking keep them coming. You know we love to hear from you. Section 1, the Zhengde Emperor, more eunuchs, more problems. His personal name is Zhu Hozhao. He's the 10th emperor of the Ming Dynasty, ascends the throne at the age of 14 as the only surviving son of his father, the Hongzhi Emperor, upon his death in 1505. The Hongzhi Emperor, very different from his son. He famously did not have a single concubine. He was the rare monogamous emperor. He gets a spot on the sweetheart tree for that one. No concubines at all. Salute to you, Hongzhi Emperor. So Zhu is his only son. He takes over at 14. He's every bit a 14-year-old, and not even a terribly mature 14-year-old at that. He's apparently very smart, and people have high hopes for him. You know, his dad was a very serious man and good administrator and emperor. He's really smart. He knows a lot of languages, but he doesn't give a shit about ruling. He doesn't get along with the people who his father has installed to help him rule. He doesn't care for them. All the grand what do they call them? Grand secretaries and other officials. They're really old. The youngest one of them is 56 years old, and so young Zhengde Emperor, he's not feeling them. So he basically immediately turns control of the empire over to a group of eunuchs called the Eight Tigers. They were called that because they were wreaking havoc on the country like tigers would. That's what it was, a nickname given to them by the people. Eunuchs were big. There are a lot of eunuchs during the Ming Dynasty because that's who, you don't want anyone who's going to usurp you. You don't want another virile man hanging around you in your harem and shit. You want a eunuch. So there are a lot of eunuchs running around. Eventually the eunuchs become kind of their own class, and they're like a powerful block. The leader, Liu Jin, who by 1507 is in complete control of the empire. So what was the Zhengde Emperor doing while the eunuchs ran the empire? Well, for one thing, he loved playing shopkeeper. He had an entire fake life-size city block constructed on imperial grounds, and then he would make all the maids and servants and all his eunuch pals, he would make them act as townspeople, which is so fun. They were his customers, he's just hanging out, I guess, at his fake job every day, watching the clock, being like, God damn, can't wait to get out of here, man. He has like a fake boss who he has kind of like a love-hate back and forth kind of thing with, and the guy's like, God damn it, Zhengde Emperor, I thought I told you to break down the boxes in the storeroom. And the Zhengde Emperor's like, oh yes sir, so sorry. And the guy's like, thank God. Every time I do that, I think it's the last. I feel like I get the game, but like I'm for sure this is gonna end with me getting Ling Chi'd in that. Ling Chi, the death by 1,000 cuts. That's going to come up a fair amount in this story. It's important to keep in mind, too, people really did think this guy was going to be fucking awesome as an emperor. He was a really bright Confucian scholar as a kid, fluent in several languages, always shadowing his dad, the Hongzhi Emperor. So when he gets in, turns the keys of the empire over to a gang of eunuchs and starts playing shopkeeper all day. It is disappointing, to put it mildly. It's basically kind of like a King Ralph kind of scenario, but with a lot more eunuchs. And truly, the Zhengde Emperor's life, really, it sounds like it was lifted straight from King Ralph in parts. Like sometimes he would, remember how King Ralph would slip out? He would slip his security detail and go into London. I think he went to Burger King one time. He just wanted Burger King. He just missed going to Burger King as a regular man. The Zhengde Emperor apparently did that in Beijing all the time. He would get in disguise and slip his security, just like in the movie. All the officials concerned with keeping the emperor alive are like, oh no, this isn't good. And for good reason. He was once almost abducted by Mongol raiders on one of these outings. And also, hey, just shout out King Ralph. What a great movie King Ralph was. As you could probably gather from the story about him building an entire city block so he could play shopkeeper, he was spending an ungodly amounts of money. He inherited an already financially strained empire and just didn't give a shit about any of that. He spent money like they were doing great. He rebuilt all the buildings at the Imperial Park south of Beijing at great expense to the empire. Once in September 1507, he spent 350,000 liang, that's 13 tons of silver, just on lanterns for the Lantern Festival. He fucking loved the Lantern Festival. At another Lantern Festival, there was a big fire. One of the lanterns started a fire and it burned down a large section of the city, which cost still more money. It's also in 1507 that the Zhengde Emperor begins construction on the Leopard Quarter, a new imperial palace outside the Forbidden City that was part zoo. I actually heard it started kind of as a zoo, and then he expanded it to make it like an imperial compound. So it had been there a little bit, the Leopard Quarter, but he expanded it. He had tigers, leopards, and an elephant. Also part fake city, so he could do his playing and not have to resort to King Ralph-style evasion tactics. It had stages for musicians, magicians, and acrobats, secret tunnels out the asshole, quarters for his vast harem. He had a vast harem. He loved his harem. He had great pride in it. He brought monks in, Tibetan monks, just for the vibes. There was a Buddhist temple to mimic the monks' natural habitat, even. There were also 240 dedicated warriors watching over it all. The construction is overseen by who else but a eunuch friend of the Zhengde Emperor's. His name was Qian Ning. It takes 5 years to build, and when it's done, if anybody needs the Zhengde Emperor, you can catch him down at the Leopard Quarter. He's going to be down there hanging out, playing shopkeeper, palling around with his harem and watching magic shows. And because the emperor is just completely checked out, we have a new golden age of corruption in China. Basically, everybody is getting taxed and extorted to shit. Public offices are being openly bought and sold. And also all the eunuchs, for the most part, they're all northerners. So southerners have basically no representation at all in the government at this point. So there are a lot of rebellions there. A lot of people are turning to banditry. Times outside the Leopard Quarter are tough all over. Meanwhile, the Zhengde Emperor is just having the time of his life. When he did come out from the Leopard Quarter, it was often to hunt. He liked hunting tigers, and he was once mauled so bad by a tiger on one of his hunts that he was forced to stay away from the court for a month. The best part of the Zhengde Emperor, though, is his use of an imaginary dude. He, when I first read about this, it was kind of like, this is evidence of how insane he was. But then the more I read about it, it didn't seem like the actions of an insane man. It seemed like a very specific tool. Like he used it to get around rules kind of forbidding. They wanted the emperor to kind of keep out of warfare. He has a mandate from heaven. You can't have that guy getting killed or abducted in battle. But, this guy named Zhu Shao that suddenly, there's this guy on the scene suddenly named Zhu Shao. He invented by the Zhengde emperors. He basically invents this guy so he could fight in wars himself, is how I understood it. He would issue himself decrees, promote himself from time to time, and then he would actually ride into battle on his own orders. He wins some important battles against the Mongols in this way, which is just hilarious. He's a great general. He keeps getting promoted. Xu Shao. This guy, he's on the fast track to greatness. I have good feelings about the future of Xu Shao. In 1510, the leader of the Eight Tigers, Liu Jin's corruption becomes too much for even the Zhengde Emperor to overlook. They search Liu Jin's house, and they find it is basically like fucking Scrooge McDuck's vault in there. It's just stacked to the ceiling with gold and silver and jewels. He was a very corrupt man, apparently. It was another high-ranking eunuch named Zhang Yang, another of the Eight Tigers, who exposes Liu Jin. He had been sent north to quell an uprising, and while he was there, somebody told him, "Hey, you know that guy Liu Jin?" Zhang Yang is like, "Yeah, I know Liu Jin. We're in the Eight Tigers together." And the guy's like, "Oh yeah, well that guy's gonna have you killed." And so Zhang Yang comes back to Beijing with a real hard-on for Liu Jin. Probably not the best choice of words with a story involving eunuchs, but the point is he had it out for him. He exposes Liu Jin. The Zhengde Emperor orders him executed by Ling Qi. That's death by 1,000 cuts. Again, for you dirty Westerners. They were supposed to make it last for 3 days, but Liu Jin succumbed on the second day, spoiling their fun. There were constant rebellions during the Zhengde Emperor's reign, mostly in the south. He was, again, hated in the south. They're not represented. He's always going down there with large entourages to hunt. He's constantly going on hunting tours in the south with large entourages, and it's the only time they ever see this guy. They're not a fan. The biggest of these rebellions came from the south, the Prince of Ning's rebellion. Upon his return from the south, he went on. That gave him reason to do a tour of the south. He returns from the south, and at this time, as he was returning, apparently he was just hammered all the time. That was one of his big things too, is he was constantly hammered. He's on a drunken fishing outing on a boat, and his boat capsizes. They actually save him. They drag him out of the water, but he never fully recovers. He actually did. He got back on his feet enough he returned to Beijing, and then he was at a ceremony at the Temple of Heaven where he collapsed and died, leaving his successors to clean up the considerable mess he'd made of things. Apparently, those eunuchs continued to run amok for the span of at least the next few emperors after the Zhengde Emperor, and that's pretty funny for those of us here 500 or so years later who don't actually have to deal with said eunuchs. So in the end, the Zhengde Emperor, he was a bad emperor and really a terrible guy in a lot of ways, but he did it his way. You can't say he didn't. Next up in our cavalcade of insane royals, we have the original inspiration for this episode, the man himself, Tsar Peter III, a very interesting character, the Emperor of Russia for a very brief time, and he fucking hates Russia. He's a crazy man, and he doesn't care for Russia. And then hit the curb music, he's Emperor of fucking Russia all of a sudden. He's the German-born nephew of the Empress of Russia, Elizabeth. She makes him the presumptive heir to the Russian throne in 1742, brings him to Russia. He hates it immediately. He hates Russia and everything about it. He does get a new fiancée, Sophia Augusta Frederica, the future Catherine the Great. She's also from Germany, but she loves Russia. She's a big fan. She actually loves everything about Russia except for her new man's, Peter III. He had a shrill, disagreeable voice, and he was obsessed with his toy soldiers, which he would take to bed with Catherine and make her play with him. He would also like put her through drills, like he was a drill sergeant and she was a soldier. She would make her march and shit, and which she doesn't like that. That's not a thing ladies like to do. They don't like to do marches. One time, Catherine came in Peter's room and there was a rat hanging from a tiny noose. No word on if he had tiny gallows constructed, but a rat was hanging. Catherine, understandably, is like, what's going on here? And Peter explains to her that the rat had committed treason by eating the heads off some of his toy soldiers, some of his best guys. So he had arrested him, court-martialed him, found him guilty, and hanged him. So yeah, pretty nutty fellow, this Tsar Peter III. Despite the military marches and Peter's bringing toys to bed every night, the couple does manage to produce one son and one daughter, but Catherine will eventually claim that at least her son was not Peter III's, and that actually they never even consummated their marriage, which honestly I could believe. It seems possible. It's said that in their 16 years living together that they both took a bunch of lovers. Catherine once said, there is nothing worse than having a child husband. She called Peter III an idiot and a drunkard from Holstein. And Catherine is far from alone in her dislike of Peter III. He seems to have been a terribly unlikable man. From the 1911 Encyclopedia Britannica portrait of him, quote, nature had made him mean, the smallpox had made him hideous, and his degraded habits made him loathsome. And Peter had all the sentiments of the worst kind of a small German prince of the time. He had the conviction that his princeship entitled him to disregard decency and the feelings of others. He planned brutal practical jokes in which blows always had a share. He was hitting people, apparently, as a bit. He would hit people. He can hit. His most manly taste did not rise above the kind of military interest which has been defined as corporal's mania, the passion for uniforms, pipe clay, buttons, and the, quote, tricks of parade and froth of discipline. He detested the Russians and surrounded himself with Holsteiners. It's not to say Peter III did nothing good. He did do a few good things in his very brief time as emperor. In the 186 days he was in power, from December 25th, 1761 to June 1762, he passed 220 laws, some of them pretty progressive. He made it illegal for landowners to murder peasants on punishment of exile, which that's good. That probably should have even been a law before then. But better late than never, I guess. He abolished Russia's secret police force, the secret chancellery, though Catherine would just reestablish it under a different name, the secret expedition, when she takes sole power of the throne later in the year. Foreshadowing. Catherine had started to plan to overthrow Peter III pretty much as soon as they're crowned. It's a very short order. They're crowned that December 1761. She starts plotting with her lover Grigory Orlov in the spring of 1762. And the people of Russia do not need a lot of convincing to get on board with the coup. They hate Peter III, remember? Mainly it's about his handling of Prussia. Remember, he's Prussian. He's a Holsteiner. It's the land of his birth. So he gets in. He immediately returns all this land to Prussia that Russia had won in hard-fought wars over the years. He gives it all back, withdraws Russia from the 7 Years' War, and then he was planning to go to war not on behalf of Russia, but on behalf of his home duchy of Holstein-Gottorp. He's also the Duke of Holstein-Gottorp, of course. So Peter wants to send Russian troops to fight Denmark-Norway on behalf of Holstein. The Russians do not like this idea, of course. They view it as an unpatriotic war. They're like, why are we fighting fucking Holstein's battles for him? Get fucked, Peter III. That's what the people are saying to him. In June 1762, Russia has massed 40,000 troops in Pomerania just in case a planned peace conference between Russia and Denmark can't come to an agreement. But by the time of the conference, Peter III has already been ousted by his long-suffering wife, Catherine. That's June 28th, 1762. Catherine marches a procession of both military and civilians to the Winter Palace, where she was crowned the sole empress of Russia by the Archbishop of Novgorod. Peter III tries to escape, makes it as far as a boat. He's going to flee by boat to this military base, Kronstadt on Kotlin Island, hoping that they're still loyal to him. Not a good bet. He's hoping against hope, but he's like, maybe those guys still fuck with me. Maybe those guys are still down with P3. That's what he's calling himself, P3. I don't know if that's true. But if it is, it definitely didn't help things probably. So he's hoping these guys are still loyal to him. He makes it to a boat, and then the fleet's cannons open up on him. They shoot like 3 or 4 cannon rounds at him, which answers that question. He's like, shit. And he turns back. The people of St. Petersburg, hearing the cannons, come out of their homes, see what's going on, and start arming themselves with bricks, with like stones and sticks, beating up the emperor, the former emperor implements, I would say. It's Peter III's Alonzo in the end of Training Day moment. He can't find a friend. He's arrested, forced to abdicate, and transported to Ropsha, where he soon died of hemorrhoids. That's what the royal said happened to him. Everybody just assumes he was probably murdered. And then there are some people that believe that he escaped, which leads to at least 5 different guys coming forward through the years to claim that they were the long-lost Tsar Peter III. One of them led a rebellion, actually, that was crushed by Catherine, and one of them was the head of a castration cult and claimed not only to be Peter III, but also Jesus. That guy's pushing it. I gotta say, you're already asking me a lot when you're asking me to think you're Peter III, but then you're like, oh, and also, like... Which brings us to our final Mad King. It's possibly the maddest of all Mad Kings. It's Caligula, the original. Born August 31st, 12 AD under the reign of Augustus, which is great because that's his mom's grandpa, his mom Agrippina the Elder. His dad is a greatly respected Roman general named Germanicus. He's part of the first royal family of the Roman Empire, and that's great for the first 2 years of his life. When he's really little, he's traveling on military campaigns with his dad Germanicus in Germania. It sounds like I'm making that up, doesn't it? Germanicus in Germania. It sounds like I just forgot where he was and was just vamping. He'd have his whole family with him. And little Caligula was like the Legion's mascot. They made him a little uniform with little boots, which is where he gets the name Caligula. It means little boot. And he's beloved by the boys. Once there was a rebellion in camp, and Germanicus got the soldiers to lay down their arms by holding little Caligula up in the air. And they were like, he's right. How could we do this in front of little Caligula? We're sorry, Germanicus. So kind of a cute beginning to Caligula's life, really, all things considered. But then 14 AD rolls around. Augustus dies, and Caligula's great uncle Tiberius takes over. Suddenly, shit gets dicey for the whole Caligula family. His dad Germanicus is killing it. He gets a triumph for his victories in the north. He goes on tour with the whole family. They get a hero's welcome wherever they go. He's a hero. He's young. He's supposedly very handsome. Germanicus. He's looking like a sure bet to succeed Tiberius at a point, who is already pretty old. He's in his 50s. But then Germanicus takes ill and dies in Antioch at the age of 33, fully believing he had been poisoned by the governor of Syria, Piso. It's a widely held opinion also that the order came straight from Tiberius. Meanwhile, Caligula's mom, Agrippina, is making no secret of her imperial ambitions, so she's pretty much doomed. In the years 29 and 30, Tiberius holds a number of treason trials. At first, he had just forbade Agrippina to remarry, but then the Praetorian prefect under Tiberius, his name was Lucius alias Sejanus, gets in his ear, and it's basically from that point on all over for pretty much everybody in Caligula's family. Sejanus is a messy bitch. He's always like, hey Tiberius, I don't like to tell tales out of school, but you know that lady Agrippina? I heard she's gonna get remarried and usurp your ass. And Tiberius is like, what? I specifically told her not to do that, though. And so pretty soon she is fucking exiled. And exiled in a way, they have these treason trials, and then they're found guilty. The Senate signs off on it, and then they're exiled. But this is just a slow death sentence. It still means death, pretty much. His brother starved after eating the stuffing in his mattress at one point for sustenance. His mother was beaten so badly that she loses an eye. She was beaten by a guard and dies in exile. Caligula himself would have been next if not for the intervention of his grandmother, Antonia Minor, who was like, God damn it, Tiberius, can't you see what's going on here? Sejanus is gonna usurp your ass. And that's all. Tiberius is now living away from Rome on the island of Capri, and he is immediately convinced. I don't know if he had suspicions before, but he didn't need a lot of talking into it. He sends a letter to Rome like, hey, could you guys execute Sejanus for me right away? No need for a trial or anything like that. And so they do. They listen. Sejanus is imprisoned. The Senate has a quick meeting about it, and then they go ahead and execute him. They do it they strangle him and then throw his body down a long flight of stairs while playing yakety sax. I made up the yakety sax part, but the rest is true. It was called the Gemonian Stairs, which led from the arcs on the Capitoline Hill down to the Forum. So good looking out, Grandma. I mean, probably a lot of suffering could have been avoided if she had just held her tongue, but she saves Caligula. Sejanus is executed in 31, but the damage has been done. Caligula is the last male member of his family. It's been a fucked up childhood, and if that wasn't bad enough, if he already wasn't going to grow up to be a goddamn psychopath enough, a dangerous lunatic, that same year he moves in with who else but cool Uncle Tiberius, the guy who killed his whole fucking family over the last 2 years. A terrible situation for Caligula, because you got to go live with this old man who murdered your entire family, and you can't be cross with him. You got to be like, Tiberius, Uncle T, how you doing, you old son of a gun? How the hell are you? Oh, me, I'm doing good. Yeah, mostly going to a lot of funerals, but mostly really good. While at Capri, Caligula makes friends with the new Praetorian prefect who takes over for Sejanus, the messy bitch, a man named Quintus Navius Cordus Sutorius Macro. His friends just call him Macro, though. You can call him Macro. So Macro can read the writing on the wall. He knows it's a good idea to get on the good side of this crazy son of a bitch, Caligula. He's 19 when he moves in with Tiberius and starts palling around with Macro. So he starts ingratiating himself to Caligula, including he turns a blind eye when Caligula starts sleeping with his wife. He's also getting in good he's constantly feeding Tiberius shit about how Caligula isn't after the throne. He's like, I don't even think Caligula wants to be emperor. He was talking to me about getting a job down at Best Buy. I don't even think he has designs on power. He's constantly feeding Tiberius this, and Tiberius is believing him. I mean, you can't not believe Macro. You can't look at that face and not believe Macro. But Tiberius manages to live to old age, maybe because he was so proactive and having potential rivals cut down brutally and instantly. But he makes it to old age. He very well may have died of natural causes, but the story goes that they're all standing around Tiberius's deathbed, and they think he's died, and they all start celebrating. They start dancing. They're chanting Caligula's name. Probably they're doing that sound over and over. Caligula, Caligula. They might be carrying him around the room, right? And so they're doing all this, and then Tiberius wakes up and asks for some food. And then, so presumably they all freeze, and then Macro is like, oof, this is awkward. And then so Macro picks up a pillow and suffocates Tiberius, just to get out of that awkward moment. Suffocates Tiberius. And then presumably the celebration is back on. Good times. Tiberius is dead. It's Caligula time. At first, everybody thinks this is great. They're like, it really can't be overstated how much people are like, I have a great feeling about this Caligula character. He's a sympathetic kind of guy. Everybody knows that his whole family has been killed one by one, and so the people's sympathies are with him, and they love his family. They loved Agrippina, and besides that, he's young, and he's coming back to Rome. People really didn't care for the way that Tiberius had left Rome and ruled from the island of Capri. He has zero relevant experience, but he is coming back to Rome, and the people love him for it. He's handing out money, which all emperors did in one way or the other, but Caligula really made a show of it. He once got on the roof of a building and was throwing silver coins down on the people. Even his relationship with the Senate starts out good. He makes a big show of saying that there aren't going to be any more treason trials like the ones that the Senate had that ended with the exiles and deaths of his family. He said there aren't going to be any more treason trials. He burns up treason trial notes that supposedly implicate different senators and different things, and he's like, for the record, I never even read these two. I'm just burning them. It's a new day. He did read them before he burned them, but he burns them. He makes a big show of it. He brings some senators back who had been exiled under Tiberius. Things are great with the Senate. He's reminding everyone about his family. That he has a big reburial ceremony for his mother Agrippina, who was very loved. So that's, ingratiating himself more with the people. He's putting on games that run from dawn till dusk, which people love, of course. And he even invented a whole new blood sport called panther baiting, which sounds it's probably horrible, but the people love it. It's all going pretty great. The empire is actually in a good place. Tiberius, for all his killing of people earlier in the story, he was a good administrator. He left the empire in good shape for Caligula. The treasury was full. I mean, they literally had sesterces coming out their asses. Not literally, maybe, but figuratively, for sure. Then at some point, so it's all going good, Caligula, his name will forever be synonymous with a good emperor. That's the way it seems. And then at some point there's a turn. It's hard to know exactly what happened or when, but there seems to be a turn. A lot of people put it on either the death of his sister, his beloved sister, or a serious illness within the first year of his reign. Like he had been on the brink of death due to this illness, and he had kind of seen the way that these senators were preparing for a future without him, and it reminds him, oh yeah, all these fucking senators are the one who signed the death warrants for my whole family. I fucking hate these guys, come to think of it. And then from that point on, once he recovers from this illness, his life is just mostly about terrorizing and humiliating the Senate. That's what was behind his threat or plan or joke, depending on who's telling the story, about making his horse Incitatus consul. He was doing it as to mock the Senate and all that they stood for. Also, when he recovers, he starts purging enemies in the Senate like hotcakes. There are a lot of forced suicides, including those of his former father-in-law, Silanus, and his adopted son and heir, Gemellus. And his campaign of terror against the Senate wasn't just limited to ordering their deaths all the time for no reason. He would send them to the mines, which sounds terrible, but it was also like a fuck you. It was like that wasn't seen as like a thing. The senators, that wasn't seen as like a punishment for senators. They were more send them to exile or something. It wasn't proper, but that was part of the fun of it. For Caligula, being sent to the mines was just a big fuck you to them and their record label and their crew. He was getting into some real psycho shit, Caligula. They say when he would be at a dinner party, he would go around, he would pick out a senator's wife, carry her off to another room, have sex with her, come back in the room, and then talk shit to her husband about her sexual prowess. He has 3 wives of his own, as well as some male lovers, including the pantomime actor Mnestra. And speaking of actors, another thing Caligula liked to do was whenever he was watching one of his favorite actors down at the old theater and someone made any kind of noise, he would have that guy dragged out and whipped. There are accounts that say when he was having someone executed, he would invite their parents out to watch and then be really gracious and friendly host to them. Act like they were like old friends coming over to watch Survivor or some shit. One night, in the midst of this 4-year campaign of fucking with the Senate and terrorizing the Senate, Caligula calls all the senators to a midnight dinner. They're all, as you can imagine, like, well, this is it. We're clearly about to be butchered. He's finally going to do it. He's going to kill us all. And they go to this midnight dinner. They get there, and Caligula's like, hey, guys, thanks for coming out. Just wanted to show you this cool new dance I learned. He does a dance for him. He did a little dance. Presumably they applaud. They're all chanting, go Caligula, go Caligula, go Caligula. Wow, that was a great dance, Caligula. And then Caligula's like, thanks, guys. Y'all can go now. See you later. Have a good one. And then that's it. He sends him. He just wanted to show him a dance. He just wanted to do a little dance for him. But Caligula's loved by the military at first. Of course, you remember he was their mascot once upon a time. They loved that little guy. They had fond memories of him from his time with his dad in Germania, the handsome and badass Germanicus, who everyone loves. They have fond memories of little Caligula from when he was the mascot of the Legion, when he was running around in his little uniform being held up to stop rebellions and so forth. They like him. This does not last at all. Everybody comes to hate Caligula like pretty fast. He's a child star. They loved him, and then he comes back and he's just a real damaged asshole, and they don't care for it. As emperor, he leads a real farcical kind of expedition to Germania, his dad's old stomping grounds, where they're looking for Germanic tribes, but they can't find Germanic tribe the first. All the Germanic tribes are gone. They're in Phoenix for the big Germanic tribe convention that weekend. Not really. I don't know where they were, but they were not there. They couldn't find any Germanic tribes. So eventually, the powers that be, they just get some random people to kind of hide in the woods and let Caligula capture them. So he can. It's ridiculous. Another time he was going to invade Britain. He had the idea to invade and conquer Britain. He assembles his men on the beach on the shores of the English Channel, looking across at the land they're about to conquer. They're about to get on the ships. And then Caligula has a really insane change of heart. He says, guys, you know what? Actually, I I need y'all all to collect seashells. He orders his men to gather seashells from the beach. To plunder the beach, he said. He declares that it's plunder from their victory over Poseidon, god of the sea. Suck our dicks, Poseidon. Of course, this is an insane thing to do, and a lot of people point to it as evidence of Caligula's insanity. But then others think it was just another classic Caligula fuck you, that it was about humiliation, like everything he did. It was fun for him to make these hardened Roman soldiers frolic along the beach collecting seashells. In either case, the story goes around Rome as evidence that Caligula was A, probably insane, and B, in any case, definitely no serious military man. No Germanicus he is not. Germanicus would never make our fucking fill our helmets with seashells. So his stock is going down. The longer he's more and more people are like, whoa, this guy, I think this guy might suck really bad. I think this guy, I think he sucks. So his stock is plummeting, but to hear Caligula tell it, Caligula has never been hotter. He's now pretty sure he might be a god. He doesn't get as into it as Commodus did with his Hercules shit when Commodus thought he was Hercules. He doesn't get quite as into it as that, but he does dress up like the god Jupiter as well as the goddess Venus, and has a statue of himself placed in one temple. Considers putting another statue of himself in the Jewish temple in Jerusalem, which of course people are not great fans of. He's making a lot of enemies. Aside from the Senate, religious figures and adherents of every faith, the legions he forces to do stupid expeditions or just hang out and collect seashells, random citizens he had personally had dragged out and whipped for coughing or whatever. Humanity was finally starting to hate Caligula as much as Caligula hated humanity. And he did really hate humanity. He once ordered the awning over the Colosseum drawn back on an excessively hot day, just hoping that random citizens would get heat stroke. Sometimes he lamented that his reign had no great catastrophe, like the loss of several legions in the Germanic campaigns under Augustus, or the great earthquake that killed a bunch of people under Tiberius. He once remarked that he wished Rome had one neck so he could cut it. He's truly a goddamn psychopath. And look, people don't like that. People like non-psychopathic emperors, or failing that, at least emperors who can pretend. Caligula cannot and does not pretend ever for a minute. He was never giving you that. It's weird comparing, he's a third emperor, right? Augustus, by comparison, was great at politics. He was great at keeping the Senate on his side. And then Tiberius, not as much as Augustus, but he still made an effort. And then you get to Caligula, and he just doesn't give a shit about he doesn't care. It seems at times like he is trying to get murdered by a senatorial conspiracy. So it comes as no surprise that there are a few different conspiracies against him, including one by his own sisters and brother-in-law, where Caligula claimed to have intercepted messages concerning an assassination plot. He had the brother-in-law executed and exiled his sisters. That's in 39. And 40, another plot, this one by a senator named Anicius Cerealis. As you can imagine, Caligula does not take this in stride. It leads to a whole lot of bloodshed, the return of the treason trials that he made such a big show of ending when he came in, whole bunch more executions. And in the end, it is not some wide-reaching conspiracy that gets Caligula. Caligula ends up being stabbed to death by his personal bodyguard in 41 because he wouldn't stop making fun of the guy's voice. It's a real Mr. Burns can't remember Homer's name thing. Caligula was mean to this guy. He was always making fun of his voice, and apparently he would call him Luscious Venus. He had a really high-pitched voice, and he called him Luscious Venus and other demeaning nicknames. And the guy eventually snapped. He decides, I'm gonna kill this guy. And because Caligula is Caligula, everyone else is like, we're with you. We're behind you 100%. You should absolutely do that. His name is Cassius something. And so he does it. Praetorians, senators, and equestrians are all behind him when he moves on January 24th. He stabs Caligula to death brutally. At the same time, Caligula's wife, Caesonia, and infant daughter, Julia Drusilla, are killed as well. Caligula's Germanic guard then just gets to stabbing back in response. And somehow, the way I read it, they do not get Cassius. They somehow, like, Cassius was arrested and executed later, but the Germanic guard, Caligula's elite personal unit, the Germanic guard, they get to stabbing back, and they again don't hit Cassius the assassin, but they do kill a whole bunch of random unfortunate senators who just happened to be walking by. And there was some thought that the plot had been orchestrated in hopes that Rome would return to being a republic. But as the story goes, the Praetorians find Caligula's uncle Claudius hiding behind a curtain in the same room where Caligula had been slain. And they were like, well, what about it, Stretch? You want to be emperor? Nah? And he does. And then, of course, there are those, it being ancient Rome, there are those who are like, well, that's obviously a lot. It's so convenient that Claudius was just happened to be behind a curtain. They think it was definitely involved in some way. But that's just ancient Rome for you, you know? But that'll do it for episode 100 of the Oddball History Podcast. It's a mad Kings episode. Thank y'all for hanging out. Thanks for joining me. Appreciate y'all truly for hanging out for however many of the 100 episodes you've been here for. We appreciate each and every one of you. We love you all. Until next time. Au revoir.
Got digging through the past. Crazy tales, they uncover facts. History's stranger than you think. They'll also talk about wieners in a blink. They'll talk about wieners in a blink. Oddball history.